Hi, I'm Jillian. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Blogger Genius podcast. But before I launch in, I have a question for you. If you could tap into a whole new income stream selling digital products with no tech headache and a plan, would you do it? Well, if the answer is yes, get on a free 20-minute call with me where I can help you come up with your digital product strategy. I'll show you MiloTree Cart, which is the tool we built to help people who hate technology sell digital products with ease. I feel like in today's world, as things are getting more complicated and uncertain, it's time we took more control over the ways we monetize our business. To sign up for a time, go to milotree.com. Right there on our homepage, you'll see where you can book it. That's milotree.com.
Welcome to the Blogger Genius podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
I have a really interesting show for you today. I am interviewing Cassie Noyes. Now, she heads up the email solution team at Raptive. For those of you who don't know what Raptive is, it used to be called AdThrive, and it is one of these large ad networks that run the ads on blogger sites. In fact, they are our partner for Catch My Party and run our ads. So you'd think I'd have her on to talk about SEO and Google and optimizing your site speed, but no. Cassie and I talk about email. In fact, Cassie helps the largest Raptive publishers with their email strategies because today email has never been more important. It is the way you build your tribe. It's the best way to sell. And as you'll hear, collecting emails on your site can actually make you more money when it comes to ads. Email has always been a very important piece of every blogger's business, but I'm going to argue it's getting even more important. So I think you're going to like this episode. So without further delay, here is my interview with Cassie Noyes. Cassie, welcome to the Blogger Genius podcast.
Happy to be here.
You are an email expert. I don't know much about your background. You work at Raptive, which is an ad network that we use for Catch My Party to serve ads on our site. But you came into my universe and all you had to say was email. And I'm like, I want to interview you about best practices. So would you share who you are, how you got into email, and what you're doing now?
Sure. So I head up the email solutions team at Raptive, and we work with our creators to help them grow their subscriber lists, engage their subscribers for higher open and click rates and engagement and views to their site, as well as promoting their brand to encourage return visitors through social media, capturing emails, so sort of 360 degree on capturing audience. And how I got into it is interesting. I think you never think, oh, I'm going to be in email marketing, but my experience started in publishing, so traditional print magazine publishing, and always was in marketing. And so then sort of did everything across audience development and ended up, I've done website, social, direct marketing, everything you can think of. And then with Raptive came in to really just focus on the subscriber acquisition and retention piece for Raptive.
Now, people say email is super important when growing an online business. And I have been shouting this from the rooftops for years. Why today is it even more important to be growing your email list?
Well, with all the changes that everyone's heard, I think we've been hearing forever that cookies are going away and it keeps getting postponed, but it's looking like it's going to happen. There's already been a rollout of a small percentage of Chrome browser users, and it's just going to continue to roll out. We're kind of waiting to see when it's actually going to happen, but it is on the horizon. So with cookies going away, and then also with AI and the changes that Google's making to search, really owning your audience is going to be so important. And it's not to say that SEO is not going to be important. That's always going to be the biggest driver. But you really want, the more you can own the audience and have that direct relationship with them. Not only is it going to, make you top of mind as far as a brand is concerned, the more you engage, the more you build that relationship, someone's going to start coming to your site directly, versus just finding you through a search. And from identity, which everyone's hearing about right now, the more every time your email subscriber goes to the site, the site is able to capture their identity, know who they are, and then advertisers will actually pay more for those visitors. So I think identity is probably the biggest reason why emails really, I think, very eye-opening, and people are starting to pay more attention to it than ever.
Okay, so let me say this back to you to make sure that everybody understands what you are talking about. Cookies are a little piece of identification that gets put on your browser, like Chrome, your Chrome browser. And this is a way for advertisers or really ad networks to track people around the internet. And again, I know it sounds super creepy, but that's how it works. Because of privacy concerns and other business reasons, cookies have fallen out of favor, and Google with its Chrome browser is saying, hey, we're going to, and I think the other browsers as well are also going to get rid of these tracking codes. And therefore, it is harder for Banana Republic to follow Cassie around the internet with that amazing pair of boots. Banana Republic has a harder time knowing, oh my God, that's Cassie. She likes our boots. We can pay more to advertise to her because she's already like shown us she likes these. We're just now going to have to kind of advertise to everybody or to people we kind of think might be women. Not going to be willing to pay as much. So if you are a publisher, your Banana Republic ad won't be as valuable to you, because Banana Republic is saying, I'm only 20% sure this person is the right target, versus somebody who's seen that amazing trench coat or boots or whatever. So what you're saying though is, if in fact you have an email list, then somebody who comes to the email list is a way to identify, that email address is a way to identify that person. So that person comes to your site, and I don't know, how do you, as say Raptive, know that that person with that email address has come back? Do you know how that works?
I do. We have a performance team that really explains this technically, but the sort of, simplistic answer is that we're able to catch it. We have a partner that we go through that can identify that email and know all of the different browsing behaviors associated with it and push that to the advertiser.
Given this publisher your email address, and therefore it's kind of tied to that publisher. So when you come back to that page, they know it's you. Now they don't know your name or things like that, but they can identify that, you're the person who did go to Banana Republic. And so that Banana Republic ad is more valuable to you. So the more email you are able to capture, the more you're able to identify the people coming to your site. And hopefully then you will make more money via ads.
Exactly. Because if you don't have the email, like you said earlier, it's guesswork. Well, we think this is Cassie and we think she likes brown boots. If they have my email, they know, oh, we do know she likes brown boots. We know she looked at them at 3 different places.
Here's a question. So you've got this group of publishers at Raptive, and each one, let's say, is collecting email. Do you have then a network where you've got, say, our email list and this publisher's email list, and you've got them all in like an enormous bucket? So if, say, somebody gave me their email address and then that person ends up on a different Raptive site, will you know?
No, we don't. It's all unique to each creator, their list.
So again, okay, so therefore it is tremendously valuable for you if you make money via ads on your site to also now grow your email list. But there are additional benefits to having a robust list. And can you speak to what some of those benefits are?
Definitely. I think, and I mentioned before, but the more people know your brand, so many people are finding, we have so many recipe creators I cook and bake a lot, so I might put in banana bread. I'll come to somebody's site and get my banana bread recipe, bookmark it and leave. And I might not come back because I don't know anything about the site. I don't know what other recipes, what other content they have. So the important part is that you want somebody, the more that they come to your site, which you can accomplish if you capture now, if I'm on someone's site, a pop-up comes up, it's a box that says, hey, here's my top 10 bread recipes. It's relevant to what I'm looking at. Great, send them to me. I start getting this newsletter, and then I'm introduced to more content. So I know, oh, they don't just do desserts, they do 30-minute meals. And the more I become familiar with their content, and also a lot of the creators do such a great job of writing, really personalized, engaging emails that make the reader feel like they're getting to know them, knowing their personality, they're really speaking directly to them. Then that brand becomes top of mind. So I'll say, okay, Happy Breads, I'm making this up. Anytime I want to make bread, now I know Happy Breads, I'm going to go directly there. And so I think it's just a great branding tool and a relationship building tool. And once someone knows your brand, they're loyal to it, and they're going to be someone who's coming to your site over and over again.
But let's say Lisa is the creator behind Happy Breads. Do you feel like Lisa should be investing in promoting Lisa, the creator of Happy Breads, or Happy Breads?
The content. But I think that the Happy Breads, I think they're sort of one and the same. What we're seeing is people who really have, I think with social, it's become so important. The creators that are on social, their faces on there, they're talking. You feel like you get to know them. It's almost like they become these little celebrities too, or big celebrities to people. And you feel like, just if I saw them on the street, I would know them. They're my friend kind of feeling. And it's this warm feeling. And so I think it's one and the same. I mean, it's the content that they're coming for, but I think the more you can put a face to that content and a personality to that content, those two combined is going to be just as important. But if someone's coming to your site, you probably want to catch them with more of a content offer, versus, putting a picture of yourself. You catch them with that content where they say, oh, I want this content right now. Then once they start getting your emails, then that's when you start to build that relationship with them.
So it's like you are putting out let's say a net, and the net is the content. You're interested in bread. I make bread. Wow, we've got that. Versus like, I live in Texas. Like, you couldn't care less. Or I have 2 dogs, or whatever
Right.
it is. It's like, I catch you because you're interested in bread. I make bread. Hey, this is a good fit. But then it's like, oh, now, and it's funny, just over the last couple of days, I've really thought of this idea came into my mind, and it is vibes, which
Mhm.
is, I make the bread, you're interested in bread, you get my recipe, and then ultimately what I want to sell you or promote to you, in addition to breads, is my vibe. Do you like my vibe? Are you connecting with me? Because maybe I have dogs and you have dogs. I live in Texas and you live in Texas. Or I talk about, I don't know, something that relates to, that triggers something in you. And it's like this amorphous thing. It could be something like we both are the same age, or who knows, come from the same hometown. But the truth is, I think it's a vibe thing. And that your vibe now is something that you sell with.
Exactly. I think a good example, I mean, food is just something that it's just everybody. I mean, food just brings up so many memories and feelings. And, for example, if it's, I'm just going to say someone who has old nostalgic recipes. If I come to their site and I say, I found this chili recipe that my grandma always made, and then it shows me, you know, get my top 20 nostalgic recipes. And I think when you start to talk to that person, you kind of conjure those feelings in them. Like, I remember sitting around the table, my grandma made this recipe. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And you start to connect with them on the thing that brought them to your site. So I think identifying your individual niche, not only for content, but like you said, the way you are, the way you think, the things that are important to you. If it's a different audience, it's more in fashion, and they come to your site and they came for these great boots that you recommended. Here's my top 10 wardrobe staples. and you start sending it to them and you're relating, these are people that are really into, sort of trendy, cutting edge fashion. You start to say, oh, I'm always looking for the best, trench coat or whatever you feel like that audience came to you for, speak to them in that language. So you can relate to them on that level as well.
So let's talk logistics. I get somebody's
Mhm.
email address. So first of all, let's start even before that. How I get somebody's email address. So let's say they come to my site because they were on Pinterest and ended up on my site, and there's a pop-up that says, hey, get my 10 best recipes or my capsule wardrobe fall fashion must-haves or something like that. So it's something that would trigger somebody to want to give up their email address. Or I'm posting on Instagram saying, get these freebies and things like that. First, do you have any advice on the best kind of opt-in / freebie that you recommend somebody offer?
Definitely. I always say pop-ups work the best. I know people think that they're intrusive, but if you follow specific rules, I mean, if you're, to me, it's always, if it's something that's relating, there's a couple ways to go about it. I kind of look at it as an evergreen offer. And what I mean by that is if you're a site where a lot of moms are coming, they're busy, they're trying to find something fast and easy, make that your offer. Here's my looking for something you can make in 30 minutes. Here's 10 recipes that you can start making tonight. That's something that's actionable to them right then. They're saying it's not, oh, are you baking cookies next Christmas? Well, that's not really going to help me right now. Something tonight. This is going to solve my problem. And that's something you can leave on your site all the time. Then there are the seasonal ones, like, the holidays just ended. It's here are my top 10 cookies. And then another thing that works really well is content specific. So like the bread, if somebody isn't just a bread site, they're all recipes, but you're interested in bread, when they're on your bread content, capture them with the bread. You know that they're reading that. So say, here's my top 10 breads. So pop-ups work really great. There's embedded forms, there's different things. There's things you can say, yes, send me this recipe, send me this article. They put their email in, it sends them. Social works wonderfully. If you can capture, there's different platforms and techniques you can use for capturing social, but I think it always comes back to what is quick and relevant to them in that moment, and information that I always use the word actionable, something that's going to help them solve a problem right then. Everybody knows their demographics of their site. So if it's moms with kids, will appeal to moms with kids. If it's, people that spend a lot of money on lifestyle and fashion, and speak to them on that and offer something to them on that. So really knowing your audience is, I think, one of the biggest pieces of it too.
If you are trying to optimize your blog post to grow your traffic and you're not using my updated blog post checklist, you are missing out. What I do is I go through all of the things you need in every single post to make sure they are optimized. You can grab this at milotree.com/blog post checklist. Super simple. milotree.com/blog post checklist. I keep hearing from many of you that you keep this either open in a tab on your computer when you're writing blog posts, or you print it out and keep it on your desk just to make sure that you've covered everything. milotree.com/blog post checklist. And now back to the show. Okay, so now I've captured the email address. I think the next step would be a welcome series.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So the best thing to do is you obviously want to deliver the content that they came for. So I always say no more than 3 email efforts. I think it takes 3 to engage them. I always send them 3 days in a row because they're looking for that first one, and we send it immediately. So if it's, yes, send me the top 10 Christmas cookies, well, I want it right now. So we'll send it to them. Here's the cookies. You might send it. I usually send it over, 2 efforts. Here's 5 of them, and the next 5. And then the third one is, hey, did you know I have all this other content as well? Like there's cookies, but also check out my side dishes and my other desserts. And so the first 2 are delivering that content, and the third is just kind of showing them what else you have. So they don't think you're a one-trick pony. They don't think you just do cookies. They know that you have all this other content too.
So that's interesting. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So it's like, here are my 10 best cookie recipes. And therefore it's not a PDF. It would be one email with like maybe 5 links to your blog. And then, hey, get part 2 tomorrow, where now there are 5 additional
Yeah,
links.
because I kind of I shy away from PDFs. A lot of times people will get them, they'll download it and they're done. They're not going to read anything else. So it's kind of a way to keep them engaged because they only get half of them. I mean, you could even spread them out over 3. You could say, for the holidays, we did a lot of menus, and it's like brunch menus, dinner menus, dessert menus, and you can divide those over 3. So every day they're anticipating getting something from you. And then I always just,
Mm.
it's important somewhere at the end to show them links to other content on your site, just so they know. But yeah, you're building that relationship too. With each email they open, they're becoming more familiar with you, and you're more top of mind than if you got a PDF, you download it, you leave.
Got it. Okay. So now I've done these 3 emails. Now, okay, so we have a tool in addition to our Milo Tree pop-up where you can collect emails on your blog effortlessly. We also sell a tool called Milo Tree Cart to enable creators to sell digital products. So I am all about multiple income streams and selling to your list. I think there is no better way to sell than to your list. So in these 3 emails, am I selling anything? Am I talking about an ebook I've created or a course or something like that? Or do you think it should just be content, content, content? At what point do I say, hey, you know what? I also sell stuff.
Right. I think
So I give away a lot of free stuff, but I also have this whole other thing that I do.
I think the best way to do it is, I mean, unless you're a retailer like a Banana Republic, if you are a content site, a lot of content sites work in affiliate links. I think as long as it's relative and organic to what you're sending them. So if they asked for, your top breads, you can put a bread maker in there. You can say, did you know I also have these guides to my favorite kitchen bread making tools? So I think as long as it's really native and feels really it pulls together with that content, and it's not just sticking out like, oh, get this thing that isn't related to my content. It feels very salesy. I think, again, back to the value that you're providing. So you're providing the content, but if there's something else that's going to also pull in value, then that makes sense to incorporate it within there too.
So these 3 days have passed and they've gotten my welcome series. Now what? What am I doing?
So hopefully you have a regular newsletter you're sending. And so once they go through that welcome series, funnel them into that newsletter to start getting that. And that way you've made that introduction. They've started to become familiar with your content, and now you're communicating with them on a consistent basis. And with newsletters, it's so important to have the regular cadence, sending it same day, same time every week. More than one, I always recommend, but if you can only do one, that's better.
One a week. You'd like to do multiple a week.
Yes. Obviously different types of, a lot of creators will do an RSS, which is one that automatically every time a new post goes live, it sends it out. That's easy. It's going out. It's no extra work. I really recommend, if you can find the time, to also do what I call a curated broadcast. You're actually writing it every week and sending it. And that's where you sort of have that relationship building where, you write an opening paragraph. It could be an anecdote or just something. These are, it's summertime. These are the things I'm loving this summer. And it just has more of a personal touch. But one or the other, both optimally, but, at least one a week.
Got it. Okay. So now let's talk logistics. How long should my emails be?
I always say the shorter, the better. People I think there's a stat where it's 7 to 10 seconds that they're literally looking at your email to see if they're going to open anything. So I always recommend, some people put links after links after links. I think if you're delivering 5 recipes, 5 links, instead of putting links themselves, using buttons usually get more response. Anything that, if you kind of take a step back, I always say, as a consumer, when I'm looking at an email, what's making me open it? So that's what I do in my job. I have a whole other email account where I get just promotional emails, and I'll scroll through it and say, what made me open this? what was,
Mm,
if you look at links, it's always the top one gets 75% of the opens. And as it goes down, it filters one at the bottom might get 1%. So what is the most
okay.
you want people to see?
So you like buttons that say get more, read more, or get the recipe, that kind of thing?
Yes. And those tend to get a lot higher click rates than just a link.
And what about photos?
Photos are great. People love photos, anything that's visual, especially when you're just scrolling through something really fast. Capturing, photos, I guess they sort of conjure up different feelings, different emotions. And so photos are great.
Got it. So, and here we go. Emojis, no emojis. What's your thought?
Emojis are good, just, like everything, in moderation. We do see subject lines, people will open them more with emojis, but as long as you're not overdoing it and it makes sense with what your subject line is, then we do see them performing well.
Let's talk subject lines,
Mhm.
because subject lines, if nobody, you could write the best email, and if nobody opens it, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what people
So,
think. Subject lines are always an afterthought, but it shouldn't be an afterthought.
how do you think about crafting a subject line that somebody will click on?
Think as far, well, I always kind of go back to those same things as far as, getting a reaction, conjuring some type of an emotion, appealing to somebody's needs and what they're thinking. And, again, sort of knowing your audience. If I mean, the holidays are so easy because we just wrapped up a ton of holidays. It's, quick and easy side dishes you can make this week. Things like that where you read it, I've got to open this right now. Something that's, asking a question is it, and you don't want to give too much away, right? So you want to kind of catch their attention with the subject line, and then there's the preview text underneath of it. And that's where you give them a little more context. So it could be, are you don't know what to make for dinner tonight, question mark, and then text, we've got 10 quick and easy recipes you can make this week. And that's enough to get them curious, and then tell them what they're going to get when they open it. Because you do want to make sure you give them an idea of what they're getting and then you deliver on it. So it's not that sort of bait and switch. It's, this is what you're getting. And yes, when you open it, this is exactly what we're delivering to you.
Mm. Do you spend a ton of time on the subject line?
We do, and the creators we work with, we a lot of times will do A/B testing, just ongoing, and just to see, all of the email service providers allow you to do that. And I think you don't have to do it for everything. You start to get a feel of what your audience is responding to over time if you just do a few of them. So I think once you start to, as long as, to me, analytics are so important. So just even looking through all the ones you've done and so which ones are really jumping out, which ones are getting the highest open rates. Um,
Now, what is a good open rate? When you go, they're killing it. What are you seeing?
Well, the average that you really want to hit is 25 to 35%. Anything over 35%, you're killing it. So, I mean, at
Okay.
50%, you're doing something right.
Now, what about culling your list? How does that, when do you recommend somebody do that?
Oh, sorry, what was that? When they do?
Culling, getting rid of
Oh,
like dead weight,
okay.
cleaning out your list.
Okay, we do that. We try to do that at least quarterly. If you can't do it quarterly, every 6 months. And we do what we call re-engagement campaigns. So we'll sort the subscriber list. Oh, this person hasn't opened anything in 3 months. Well, they're probably not going to open anything. So we'll send them an email that's like, hey, we miss you. We see you haven't opened our emails in a long time. We don't want to lose you, and some type of very compelling subject line that will jump out, like we miss you, or we haven't seen you in a while. And when they open it, say, we just want to make sure you're not missing out on all of our great content. Maybe throw a couple of your best performing pieces of content in there. If they don't open that, and then we'll unsubscribe them from the list.
Got it. And let's talk about AI. Where do you use AI in writing emails? Because to be honest with you, I love it for writing emails.
It is great. And actually, my team has been using it more and more. We still have copywriters, but we found that it's once, because we work with the same creators over. So if it's your own brand you're writing for, as you know, AI will start to train on your voice. So the more we're seeing, the longer that we use it, we can crank out emails in no time. And it starts to really, the first couple are a little bit little wonky. Oh, I'm not quite sure if that's the voice I want, but the more and more you do it, the better it is. And especially for newsletters, because it is short content, you're not writing a long feature with it. I highly recommend it. I think it's great.
And how do you feel? Again, nobody knows anything, but I ask this of all of my guests. Talk to me about how you think AI is going to evolve and change our businesses over the next 6 months, over the next 6 years. What are people talking about at Raptive? Like, are you guys freaking out, or are you like, hey, this is no problem?
I think we're not freaking out. I think we're just sort of anticipating, there's obviously pros and cons to everything, and we're looking at the cons and the ways that we feel like it could really help our creators to be more efficient. There's obviously newsletters, there's just brainstorming. Everyone's going to write your own content. It's unique to you. But just, I think AI, in my personal world too, it's just great for brainstorming things and coming up with different ideas. Um, I also think, with AI, in the way that the changes are going to happen with the search engines like Chrome and SEO, there's not going to be as many links that are populating. I think just kind of thinking in terms of how AI and the changes and how people are searching for things and getting content makes that brand awareness so much more important. So you know that you're not going to come up in search as often. So let me really build my email list. Let me start being active on social, and I think AI coming, actually, that's something people should have been doing, should have been doing for a long time. But everyone, obviously, SEO is where most of the work's being done. And I think it's going to cause people to kind of shift more and focus on brand, which I think is really important. And that's really great in the long run for everybody.
I just did a reel today. If people are not following me, follow me on Instagram at MiloTree. And I just did a reel that said, is blogging dead in 2024? And my answer is yes and no in just what you said, which is it's no longer just blogging. Like, it's no longer, I understand low competition keywords and I can write the right post to get that traffic. It is now what you're talking about, which is brand building. My blog is a very important part of my business, but I am now a brand, or I am connected to my blog. Like, I need to be stepping out in front and being active on social, writing my emails, doing all of the, like, I feel like it is now much more 360 than it was. I could just get really good at this one skill and, kind of like not game Google, but understand the algorithm enough so that I know if I use these keywords and all this number of photos and whatever it is, my site speed and all of that stuff. And not that that isn't still important, but it's going to become a part of the equation. And, because it eventually, and I use this example, you're going to be taking a photo of your fridge, of what's in your fridge, and you're going to say, hey, my special AI tool that's like my best friend, what should I make for dinner? And it will know exactly what to make. So therefore, I might not need, the bread blog, but if I have a connection with Lisa, that's when I need Lisa.
Right. And also another thing with AI, if it does say that it's pulling, it's not a person. So it's pulling things in from across the entire net, all different sites, where the content coming from a blogger is so much more valuable. That it's tested. I mean, I'm going back to recipes, but it's tested. The person's an expert. You know what you're getting. It's dependable. You trust them. There's that trust element of it. And I think that's where it's their opportunity to shine and seeing what their unique value is. And this is where, I go to Happy Bread because her recipes, my bread comes out perfect every time. She is an expert. She's trained in it. She's been doing this for years. Versus AI, it's kind of a gamble. You never know. Is this really going to turn out the way I want it to? I don't know who this is that's recommending to me. It's some abstract machine somewhere. So I think that's the other piece of it too, is like that human element and who you are as a person is so important.
I agree. I think that the way we are going to compete against AI is by being human, by leaning into our humanity. Again, selling that vibe, which, your AI can't have in the way that another human being can. And so for all of you out there going, oh my God, I really have to put myself out there, I'm going to say, yeah, you do. I don't know what that looks like for you or what your comfort level is, but start thinking about your vibe. Start thinking, ask your friends, like, what is my vibe? Like really think about this because this is your brand. This is the stuff that you can't necessarily touch, but that you are constantly giving off, that people are picking up from you, because our humanness is going to be super valuable, and trustworthiness. You were just talking about that. I don't know who to trust. I mean, I read my news now with so much skepticism because we all do. Like, who knew? There'll be a study, and I'm like, who said this? Like, I don't know. Whereas before, I would have believed anything. And I can see myself getting more distrusting. I don't like that in myself, but I am. So therefore, I'm much more apt to listen to what somebody I trust says than to just, Google it and go, okay, this is the best dishwasher, or this is the, how do I know? So therefore it really matters who I'm listening to.
And I think one other thing too, you had said, what is my vibe? One thing you can do, send your audience, your subscribers a survey. Just do a quick survey and ask them, what makes you come to my site? What do you love about my content? What would you like to see more of? And that way you get that feedback from them, and you can tailor your content around. And to get that, you can ask them anything you want. Like, what's the one thing that comes to mind when you think of happy bread? And that's where I think you find out what your unique niche is and what your brand voice can be, coming directly from your subscribers. You could always put something on your website too, like a small pop-up asking them as well. And I found that's the most
I like that.
feedback you can get.
I love that. Okay. So as we wrap up, if you have advice for how to do this easily, because it sounds like a lot. You're telling me I got to do an email, I got to then do weekly emails. What are some shortcuts that you would say, what, don't do this, but do this? Like, make sure here are the 3 fundamentals to keep in mind.
Right. And there is so much, and it can be overwhelming, and everybody goes, oh my gosh, I can't do all of this. I think I kind of put it into different buckets. There's the first step is getting subscribers. That's the first thing. So you want to do some sort of a way for people to sign up on your site, whether it's a pop-up or it's, a form on the site saying, to sign up. Always do an offer. I don't say sign up for my newsletter because people don't know what they're getting. So as long as there's some way on your site for people to enter their email, that's the first one. And then the second one is, it's great to send them a welcome series. If you can't do a welcome series, send them one email, saying thanks here's my top recipes or things that I that they asked for. And then really just sending at least one newsletter a week. Because if you don't do that, if you get their email and they don't hear from you, you've fallen off their radar. If they're not seeing you on a consistent basis in their inbox, we all know we scroll our inbox real quick, then they're not going to open. So I think getting a way to capture readers and then continuing to engage them and build that brand awareness and that relationship with them. Those are the 2 most important things to do.
I think that's great. I think that's great. So it is doable.
Yes.
It is doable with not a ton of effort. Just get something out there.
And most of the email service providers, MailChimp, ConvertKit, they have things built in where you can either do a pop-up or a form. So you don't need to have any fancy, outside platforms to start. You can at least get started. Or I know your tool, things that are easy to implement and they don't have to feel intimidated by. There's lots of different ways to do that.
Wonderful. Well, I have to say, we're entering the Wild West. It's always been the Wild West in blogging. It just feels a little wilder. That's what I would say. But
I was
exciting.
going to say it's exciting. Lots of good things, good changes, I think.
And I think that when things are in flux, there are opportunities. You just have to be looking for them.
I completely agree. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's always good.
So, Cassie, if people want to reach out to you, have questions, anything, where should they go?
They can reach me at probably the best is my email address. So it's just C Noyes, Noyes at Raptive. And that's the easiest.
.com.
.com. Yes.
Great. Well, honestly, Cassie, I'd love to check in with you again in 6 months or a year just to see how things have evolved and changed. I want to say, though, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me.
I hope you guys liked this episode. For me, my biggest takeaway is that it's just the simple things. It's about showing up consistently. It's about knowing what you stand for. It's about connecting one-on-one with your audience and providing value. It's not about complex technical systems or that there's a way you can game this. It's really about authenticity. And I love that. So speaking of authenticity, if you want to take what Cassie is teaching and talking about and go that next step by actually selling your authenticity through digital products, please go check out MiloTree Cart, because again, simple technology, simple selling, get your products up and out so that you can test them, so that you can see how your audience responds to them super quickly, so you can pivot and iterate and find gold. If you want to get on a call with me, go to milotree.com. You'll see a place to sign up for a free 20-minute coaching session where I'll help you come up with your digital product strategy. This is not rocket science. It's just about putting one foot in front of the other. And I just love to show you the path. Plus, in today's world, it has never been more important to have multiple income streams. Again, milotree.com, sign up for a 20-minute session. I'd love to meet you, and I will see you here again next week.